All right, good evening. It is 7:07 p.m. on Monday, April 25th. My name is Rebecca Bench, and I'm calling this meeting of the Hatfield School Committee to order. We will start with public comment. So if there is any public comment, you can make yourself known. Nobody on the meet?
There are two guests on.
Yeah, but no.
Nobody's raising their hand.
All right. So seeing no public comment, we will move on to our discussion regarding the budget. So I don't know if the budget subcommittee would like to start us off. Anybody?
I'd rather Mike start us off, no? Or do you want to? I don't know.
Do you want to start? We can chime in.
The budget has not changed since we last talked about it. We made some adjustments for some special education changes that came in late so that we would not start the year in deficit. But they were all assigned to school choice so that the town's share of the budget did not increase. And so we are, at a 9.51% increase, I believe, for total budget. And I know that this is a large increase, but as I have gone over it many times with administrators, with budget subcommittee, I really don't have any areas that I would say, this is an area where we could adjust. I really feel like we are very tight going into a new fiscal year, and we're making up for investing in the level of services that we are providing currently. So I recommend this budget fully.
So coming from the budget subcommittee, I would concur with the recommendation. And I thought if the chair and the committee would indulge, it might be a good time to perhaps speak to some of the questions we have had offline, if that's...
Yeah, I think that would be helpful before we take a vote.
Okay, it's an appropriate spot. So one of the questions that has come up, because we've talked about this being a level service budget with a cost increase, which seems like that shouldn't be possible if it's the same service. Why wouldn't it be the same cost? And so put another way, just so I think we all hear things slightly differently. So this is the same information, just maybe recaptured in some different ways to help folks understand. If we're not offering more services, why would the budget go up? And here's some reasons. Cost of living adjustments and contractual agreements. We are still in negotiations on contract agreements for some union positions. But if we take a look back to last year's budget, those cost of living adjustments that were contractually based were an additional $146,300 in the 21 to 22 budget. I think we can all in our day-to-day lives understand that rising costs for materials like gas and electricity, particularly in light of running our building's HVAC to its maximum air returns, which is part of our health and safety plan because we'd like to keep kids in school, and that drives costs up. We had an administration turnover in multiple positions between the 21 and 22 budgets. So we had multiple seats to fill. And we had, frankly, had a huge savings when we looked at both our student services director role and the support structure within that and our superintendent, where we had a lot of individuals wearing multiple hats, and also folks who had been with our district for decades, which in the long run does save the district a lot of money. And so while I think we did an amazing job filling the posts with really capable people at the most affordable rates we could find to do it, we did see an additional around $25,000 to our budget. And this year we were able to offset that largely with some grant money that is not something that can be renewed. And we will have spent. So that's how we managed to pull it off. It's just not something we can carry forward. we have added a special needs class and staffing, and that while this was a cost increase to our budget, which this year was offset again by ESSER funding, it's a net positive for the district financially. So we have a class that's going to run us about $137,000. If we were looking at any other way to provide that, we would be looking at over $300,000. So we're providing level services to our students and saving money for town, even though there is a cost increase. Similarly, we have SEL and behavior support, and that savings is significant because we're able to manage that around $62,000 versus what we could have been spending around $225,000. So
Out of
again,
district.
for the district,
Right.
Out of district.
if it were out of
Right.
district.
Right.
So the
Just wanted to
savings to town for those two efforts, which are amazing, is $325,000. So other districts don't have that built in and aren't able to do that. And here's a way where it's a level service, but it's an increased cost, even though it could be significantly more. I think it's important for our community to understand that we support our students with individualized education plans, which can have an impact on budget as we support those services. 27% of our students have that kind of support from our district, which is considerably greater than the state average. And we feel like that's the right thing to support our students, but it does come with some financial additions and overlay. And I think, as Mr. Wood pointed out, we had a late addition that we managed to add into our budget that did not impact what we're asking from town, but did raise our budget for an out-of-district placement. And so there are some costs there, probably a rough ballpark around $75,000. So as we're looking at those overall increases that we just highlighted, that would tally up rough, and so these are estimates how we're looking at it, but that would tally up to $482,000. And our increase in our overall budget is $445,000. And the highlights that I just pulled out represent 92% of that total. So if we're looking at level services, but increased costs, that's some of the places that those costs can come up.
Yep.
So we've had a question raised about why haven't there been adjustments since the budget was first reviewed in February. And I would frankly offer the fact that you can come in and play games and pad your budget so that you can then be a hero and come back and cut. And that just really wasn't the approach that we took with this, that we wanted to be as transparent as possible and really be straightforward. And so there was the slimmest margin of cushion because we know things shift during the year. And so there was the tiniest bit there, and that just went away because we have foreseen some additional needs for level services still, but additional costs. And so what little bit there was, we have depleted that already.
Yeah.
So there, again, to speak to Mr. Wood's point, there's nothing left to cut but services. We have been asked the question, if we're exceeding the net school spending requirements set by the state, why would schools need more money? And that's a fair question to ask if your understanding comes from the one state mandate. But I think if we are reviewing budgets strictly by that, it really gives a false impression of what school funding comparisons and real costs look like. So most districts with greater wealth give more to their school departments. Districts who cannot give more typically qualify for additional funding, and Hatfield does not do either at this point. And so as we look at spending in the most level way, apples to apples comparison that we can make, which is all spending per pupil. So it takes up the entire budget and it divides it by pupil. And as we look at that, Hatfield is in the bottom 5% of the state. So if we wanted to fund our schools in line with our most fiscally conservative neighbor, we would be looking, and this does not include any school choice students. This is strictly looking at local Hatfield residents in our school population. We would be looking at an additional $932,000 based on old data. Like that's the last year we have it from DESE, which is going to be a couple of years old. And I pretty well can guarantee that's not going to be accurate because it will have gone up too. And lastly, we get some questions about what about school choice, because there's so much money sitting in school choice, and that's not true. But there are some misunderstandings about what's going on with school choice, and this seems like a good time to kind of get that cleared out. School choice numbers are relatively flat in terms of both the numbers of students coming into the district and the number of students leaving the district. So we've had a slight dip this year. It's down about 13%, but that's equal to a bump we had a few years back when we had 141 kids. So we are down a little bit this year, but looking at 10-year averages, we're down about 1 kid per grade right now. It's not particularly significant. Looking at 20-year averages, we're actually up 20 students. So some perspective on that. The number of students who are choosing to choice out of our district right now are in a slow and steady decline. So I know sometimes you hear about 1 or 2 kids that might be leaving a district and it starts to feel like there's this mass exodus, but the numbers really don't show that at all. In fact, we are losing fewer and fewer students each year. It's been pretty flat but declining to school choice. So I've also had the question if our local tax dollars are paying for school choice kids. And the answer to that is really no. School choice kids bring funding in from their sending district. They bring more. This supports needs if they have additional needs that we help cover. All of those funds really help offset our fixed costs. And so one of the things, if people watched last meeting, is that we set numbers for how many students we would accept in on a per grade basis. And that's one of the ways we just manage that we aren't increasing our enrollment in such a way that we would ever add any additional cost to our budget to add, say, for a whole classroom that would be part of school choice, that would be made up entirely of school choice kids. So we're not adding to our fixed costs. We're there just helping offset those funds that we need. So that's where we are. There's a few more other pieces we can say that we've been hearing about. I'm happy to address it. In terms of school choice kids coming and going, those that are leaving the district on average is 34. Right now we're at 32, so we have more kids staying put. And our school choice in right now is at 117. And again, that's down 13%. But in the grand scheme of things, as we look over a long haul, it's not really a significant difference. And then lastly, if there's some sense of, we're losing students broadly to all kinds of places, we've taken a look at sort of 10-year data about where Hatfield residents, where our students attend school. And that is a fairly consistent number. And so right now it's a slight bump up, but on average, it's about 93 students who maybe are at a VOTEC school, they might be at a charter school, they might school choice out to another district, they could be homeschooled, or they could be attending private or parochial schools. So we always have some students that are doing that, but year in, year out, it's pretty consistently the same number of kids. There may be a trend that there's more kids going into Smith Folk, but usually when there are more kids going to Smith Folk, there are fewer kids doing other things. And so you have in your materials a look from 2011 to current, what it looks like for the total number of Hatfield students and who's going to Hatfield Public Schools. And I think as you look at the trend, it's like a little mountain range, and the echo behind it is 94 students year in and year out. So there really is a very consistent thing. What we do see, though, is a 15% decline, and that's in the local student population numbers. So over this last decade, we're seeing 15%, just fewer students in Hatfield available to come. And so I know we talked the last time that that's, as you guys take on some amazing work to look at sort of the long-term planning, that's obviously one of the things to keep in mind. So,
Well, I think this is very helpful
okay.
to understand. Yeah.
Are there other things that you guys are hearing that we should address, either because we need to take a look at something differently, or if there's information that might be just not currently available to the public that we could share?
The only other thing that I've heard, and we've talked about this, but is it would cost less to regionalize, and we know that's not accurate.
Yeah. So
But
we've
that's
looked at the
definitely-
data. I mean,
yeah.
and I think this is the right place to talk about that.
Yeah.
Because while there may be reasons to regionalize, financially right now, because of our spending per pupil
Right.
is so much lower than what everyone else is spending.
Right.
If we were going to regionalize, we would have to catch up.
Right.
So the only way to do that would be to take a look at what would we have to spend. And so, looking at regional school districts, looking at Mohawk Trail, Pioneer Valley, and Frontier, and taking an average of that in terms of their expenditure per pupil. The last year we had apples to apples data. We were spending significantly less, to the tune that if we just accounted for the difference in our local population and spent at the rate that these regional schools are spending, it would be an additional $2.5 million a year.
Above the budget that we currently have.
Above the budget we currently have. So while we are coming forward with not an insignificant ask, and I really do appreciate that it's more, that we have been so fiscally conservative for so long, some of this is caught up to us. There is not a reserve sitting in our school choice account. I mean, it is.
All at this point.
We will be happy to have new students coming in that will help replenish what we're spending next year, and that's kind of how that will keep working. But if we were to regionalize and we needed to spend anywhere near those folks, it would be significantly more than what we're asking for now. The other little pinch of this is that while our overall budget is going up in under 8%, our ask from town shifted. So town is we're because we don't have any other grant money to offset it, we're looking for a disproportionate share of our funding to come from town this round. And so while we have kept that as capped as we possibly can, it's just where we are at this point because there's nowhere else to come from. And I know the district has scrubbed every budget. They have scrubbed every grant out there to make sure that we have spent every dollar we could before we ask for anything. And I trust administration that they have done that as they have reported.
Right.
Yep.
I do think that the data on the per pupil expenditures is really telling. Just
Sickening, almost.
yeah, and just thinking about, even like the most comparable average of a regionalized school district increases our budget by $2.5 million. And yeah, it is.
And we did that per pupil, because some people are going to say you're counting school choice.
No,
We're
that's
not
resident
counting
students.
Residents only.
Resident
Only
students.
residents.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as we're looking budget from where we are today to where we're looking to go, we're not adding staff. You know, that head count isn't changing.
Right.
So we're meeting the services that we need to meet. And anything under what we are asking for means a cut to those services. And one that will be felt. It's not like I'm looking at a principal over there who knows both schools at this point. There's, you know, I went back and I looked at what they discussed cutting coming in from 19 into 21, I think it was. And it's like, oh my gosh, we've cut that. We've cut that.
Right. I was going to say, in the past few years, middle school sports,
The gifted
Choir.
program.
Gifted program.
gifted and talented, a number of other
Falcon
sports have all
think
been,
There was an
there was a
ASL
health,
course.
ASL has been cut back, French has been cut back.
Yeah.
Health was restructured. There was a health change. And those are all important services to our students. They're all things that bring students in. They're things that make students want to stay. And, you know, we're building up our community by supporting the school district. And, you know, I think that we have been financially like the best stewards that we could possibly be, but it looks like any further cuts just, it means a program. Did the budget subcommittee discuss what might be the alternatives? I mean, I'm just wondering what.
I don't know what that would be. It would be scary. Like,
You know, any changes that we make would have to be essentially enrollment driven. So we would have to look at where we do have some smaller class sizes, or if you know, we could somehow organize our special education services differently to stay within the right teacher student ratio. You know, we would have to look further at that and see
So
what kind of reductions.
fewer classrooms?
That's
yes,
one
that's the only,
possibility. I mean,
it's-
we do have some, you know, smaller classes, but you know, the challenge with that is you know, we are at two at each grade, and if you start shifting those and go one year and two the next and one the next, what happens is there's no continuity to the programming, to the quality of the instruction. You don't have a partner teacher to talk about what's going on and to learn from one another. You know, I think it can impact things. You know, certainly if we got so far, you know, if we lost students more than we have, or to Christy's point, we just don't have the students coming in. You know, we're going to need to take a look at that. But you know, I think that this year, you know, I think it's appropriate to keep going with the two at each grade.
And part of that, I look at, starts to impact our ability to bring in school choice students.
Sure.
Because that's still a big piece of, I mean, while it's not a reserve budget, it does help offset fixed costs in a big way. And so anytime we're doing something like changing the number of kids per class, that impacts a parent's desire to put their kid in Hatfield schools.
Right.
And if we don't invest, at some point, the cost is going to be far, far more.
Yep.
Like 2.5 million more.
$2.5 million more. Yeah, and I think we have been, you know, like I said, financially good stewards, but creative with what we've done. I mean, the way we have structured some of our programming, while it did increase costs a little bit this year, it actually saved the town $325,000.
Right.
And that's a low estimate, to be honest with you. Like, I've looked at the ballpark, and it could have been upward.
Yes.
So,
I mean, really, at the end of the day, yeah.
but you know, while it's hard to, you know, ask for so much more, particularly when we've had a history of not asking for quite so much. It's a program that's so well worth it.
Right.
I mean, we're seeing amazing things. We have, and graduates come back to town. I mean, we want to invest in people. That they're our town.
Okay.
Just for clarifying sake, there was a big-ish meeting last week, right? And did anything come out of that, or did we not have that?
With the select board and
Yeah,
the
wasn't it? Yeah,
FinCom?
yeah.
There was a meeting. They went through the entire budget. They asked about, how the increase, how it came about and so forth. I answered those questions. Both the FinCom and the select board agreed to put it forth as presented for warrant, which I think they're talking about
Which they're
tomorrow night.
creating warrants tomorrow night, right?
Right.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Did anyone have any other questions or anything else about the budget as presented?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. No. All right. If there's no further discussion on the budget, we can go ahead and hold a vote, and then proceed with budget hearing. Is that all good? No? Okay. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the 22-23 budget as presented.
I'll second that.
Is there any further discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Motion passes with all 4 members in attendance. All right.
What have you typically done for a hearing? Just
Geo.
have people-
Sometimes we talk about it more, but we already talked about the budget a
Yeah.
lot.
I don't know if we want to give the opportunity for any people who are on the,
I think
Any
that would
further
be-
public comment on the budget or
does
questions?
anybody want to make public comment? I won't identify you. I'm not seeing any.
Okay. I don't know why it says vote on here. All right. In which case, if there's no further public comment or no further discussion on the budget from committee members, no public, you guys didn't want to make a comment? No?
Do you have
All
any
right.
questions?
Thank you for approving. I think it's, the one thing I hear a lot about in my role is sustainability as a district. I'm sure you all do too. And I think a huge piece of that is the ability, especially where I'm now at Smith Academy, to recruit folks from out of town through school choice, and to recruit folks to move into town. And you do that with opportunities. And it's, we, as a small district, we have to get really creative with how we find those opportunities and how we fund those opportunities. And it's, it makes it increasingly difficult to do that when you talk about, when we have to talk about potentially cutting services. So I think that's important to remember.
Thank you for your input. All right. Hearing no further comment, let's move to the next agenda item, which is the school calendar. So committee members have a copy of the calendar.
Yes, I hope this is as clean can be. I would just start off by, don't I have the, there we go. So we did ask for a lot of feedback from our teaching staff and support staff, and I think the biggest question that they have is that in this year's calendar, we do have the religious holidays in the fall and Good Friday in the spring, and we don't have in this calendar. And the biggest question is why, and I will take that on as, it's my recommendation to you as a school committee. Our job is to build a calendar that I think has the most robust, continuous learning time that we can provide to our students. And by really focusing on the federal holidays only, and I realize there's concern about that, but I really think that allows us to have as many full weeks as we possibly can, to have stretches of really continuous learning time. And also, it's New England. We are bound to get weather, anytime sometimes between October and late April. And so it's necessary that we protect the ability to get 180 school days in for students between essentially whenever we decide to start and June 30th. We cannot go past June 30th. And so for student days or teacher days. So I think this calendar does the best effort to make that possible and to make sure that we have the opportunities for kids to learn in a continuous way.
I appreciate you explaining that, and I'm actually really happy to get back to this. I think we saw the effects this year of having so many extra days off. So
I have a clarifying question.
Sure.
yeah.
The December 9th early release, is
Yes.
that the teacher conference?
So that would be teacher conference day,
Okay.
and I know there's usually two
Yeah.
in there. And so I do need to meet with the association about how we can arrange conferences, because there isn't a second day. There is one on the 23rd, and but obviously we're not going to have conferences on the 23rd.
You're right,
I
no.
say that. We
Can-
will.
Can we just have it identified, though,
It
on
does
the,
say-
on the side there, that it is for conferences?
It says PT
conferences.
conference, parent-teacher conference.
Oh, I'm looking at the wrong one. I have two of them out. I have the old one, too.
So I will
'Cause I
have
was
to meet with the
comparing-
association and talk about a different model for doing conferences. I mean, essentially, what I think, and it's great that you brought this up, Kathy, is that, essentially, we're releasing the students on the 23rd. We could clarify that we have the teacher time for after, and so we could build in maybe a comp time that they do in evening conferences. I've done that in many districts before. We do that on the 23rd, just happens to be the 23rd in Thanksgiving as well, that we don't have any work time required after the students leave on those 2 days. So we could have this conversation with them.
Well, the evenings could benefit some of our families as well.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. There
Could
definitely should be
accommodate-
an
Yeah.
evening.
accommodate
And I'm sure our
more
teachers in the
families.
past have done some type of
Yeah.
evening on their own, but we could more formalize that.
It would be way more accommodating, I think. It's very hard for
Yeah.
parents to get to school for a parent-teacher conference at 12
Right.
o'clock in the afternoon. Yeah, for most families.
Does this get us to our required number of half-days by contract?
I think it
This is
does.
7.
No, we have,
1,
Or we're not counting something?
2, 3.
which is why I wanted to clarify,
So we have 4 half-days.
contract is 5
Hmm.
for the half-day curriculum days for teachers.
Is it
Some other
5?
things. Why am I
5.
seeing more than that?
I see 5.
We're not counting the
May not
parent-teacher
be.
day.
I'm
No,
not
so
counting
I
the teacher
have,
day either.
I have the one in October,
Yep.
one in January, one in March.
November.
No,
You don't count November? It's early release day?
no, that's, the teachers don't have a curriculum day on the 23rd.
Oh,
Maybe I've
I
been
go
counting
home.
that.
okay.
Got it.
So it is,
That's why I was counting that.
21st,
Yeah,
the
that's
9th.
why I see 5.
so I have October, January, March, and May, and we need one more. I don't know if you put one in September or in June, but
What would you suggest being in the schools?
I would opt for September. I think you can do more work to get ready.
we used to have one in September.
Yeah.
Maybe like the 23rd?
Yeah.
What's the
Sounds-
23rd sound?
But that would be the 5
There we go. That's a good catch.
curriculum half-days.
I just was reading early release,
No, there-
but I didn't
that-
think about it. You're right.
But that's
day
why
before
I really feel
Thanksgiving.
that it's important on the side that it says why it's an early release,
Absolutely, yeah.
because like
Oh.
on November
Not a lot of
23rd,
room.
that's early release
No.
for the Thanksgiving break.
Right.
And it's
Early
not the,
release, parentheses.
yes, it,
Right.
you know, the teachers value those
Definitely.
working half-days,
Absolutely.
and I want to make sure they have all 5.
Yeah.
Right.
And
The day before the
as we're
holidays.
going back to this, to add that, can I ask, just as a public service, that you post in a corner somewhere what time early release is for
Oh,
each
okay.
school?
Sure.
I think, because I know I find myself coming back to the calendar, and the number of times it's like, oh my gosh, what time is that?
Yeah.
Be helpful.
That would be helpful.
Connor is always really great to remind us the morning of.
Don't forget you're picking
Don't forget to come pick
tomorrow.
up your kids. Gosh darn it.
But I would be lying if I didn't say that sometimes that helped me catch that.
Yeah, no, for sure. Nope. Oh, man. Oh,
So the September 23rd one, that is HES only?
I mean, personally, professionally, I think most schools should have them, but I think.
well,
we only
let's see,
counted
it
4
says-
In the essay for learning time.
The 5 are for the HES.
Can you make it?
1.7 minutes.
I think we'll hold off. That'll just be an HES one. Sorry.
Nice advocacy, Connor.
We're having 20 seconds to every day.
Hang on.
Oh, sugar pie bunch.
It's on page.
And these,
So, hang on.
sorry.
Just double checking one last thing. It's the time to catch up.
Yes.
So there's one in September, there's one in October. Yes, that counts? Okay, the November one doesn't
it- it-
count.
It does say
The Decembers don't
5
count.
half-day curriculum days for elementary teachers.
Okay.
Okay.
And then
It does,
this
yeah.
is
So-
So
3,
the one in September will be HES only.
4.
And that gets essay to there.
I just wanted to be
No, thank
in
you.
So it's
compliance
5
of
for
that. I didn't want to,
HES and 4 for Smith Academy, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And these weeks all look fine to me, but we compared this with other schools. This is the same holiday weeks in February and in April for most of the other surrounding schools. Just want to double check.
and in fact, the November 8th full-day PD day
Oh, that's.
aligns with,
Right, that's regional.
yeah, like the collaborative is doing a bunch of things, and so that would be a great opportunity to
Right.
perhaps join with other districts to,
Especially our singular teachers.
Right.
It's a great time for music and language arts, ASL, so forth.
That's great. All right. Is there any further discussion on the budget?
It's the calendar.
Gosh, the calendar?
I'll make a motion to approve the 22-23 school calendar as amended.
I'll second that, which is going to just make Michael's notes easy.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Great, thank
Motion
you.
passes.
Appreciate the feedback.
Excellent. All right, finally, we have the matter of placing a flagpole at Smith Academy.
Waiting for this
You're
all
on.
day.
And Dr. Driscoll has some additional information for us.
Yes, I can just hand these to folks.
Oh, wonderful.
They're, sorry, I didn't get it for the packet. Couple options in terms of placement. Just to orient you, if you can't see, it's a little bit blurry. Yeah, Smith Academy, the bottom of the page, you can see the parking lot. The cross with the one next to it, or X1, I guess. That's one option. X2, that option is up by the softball field, so close to where the Judy Strong marker will be. And X3 is down kind of by, did I say softball field? I meant,
Yeah, you meant
I meant
baseball
field,
field.
I
And
meant
field
field
hockey,
hockey and
yeah.
baseball, yeah. And then X3, the third option is down kind of by the corner of not the field hockey field, the softball field. So of those options, my recommendation would be with the first one there. It's kind of raised, it's central, you can see it pretty clearly. We did a walk around to all the fields to see where you could see spots. That's how these three kind of came to be. That's pretty central to all the fields. You can see it from the field hockey field. That's the most distant one, but it's still pretty clear. It's up high. It's close to electricity. So if we're doing the national anthem, we can get electricity out there for that. That's much harder to do at some of the other spots. So that would be my recommendation. But the other places with good visibility are the other places indicated here as well.
Will it be lit?
I
was going to say, did you talk to the Legion about?
No, I haven't. Have they?
So I'm sorry, I did not get it into the packet, but the Legion group did vote on
Oh, they did.
25-foot pole,
Okay.
aluminum three-piece with a flag, roping, and a solar light kit.
Okay.
Oh, great.
So yeah.
So
Great
that would
idea.
be
Yeah.
yeah, I thought that was a great idea.
Because what I was thinking was that if it wasn't lit, it needs to be taken down every day.
Yeah, and that's
And if it was way off in either the second or third option, that would be a long walk for somebody every
Envisioning
day.
who was going out there in January
Right, that's what I was thinking, so.
to go lower
Connor's
the
got a
flag.
ski suit, I'm just telling you.
He really does.
Cross-country ski club.
But even with the solar light, personally, I like number one.
I agree.
I do think it's in a more centralized location,
all right.
which is great.
Will you be able to see it from the other side of the school? That
I
angle?
don't know at
Yeah,
25
it's-
feet.
Might be able to.
You mean
Might be
from
able
the
to.
front of the
One
building?
What angle?
One of the
Oh.
reasons for that location was that there's some
like
kind
a
of
little-
depressions out there that's on a more raised spot anyway, so you're starting from higher up.
Nice.
Great.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, and thanks to the Legion. So
Does the Legion know about this?
About the
The
options?
specific location and recommendation?
Not before
yet.
tonight, no.
and when I discussed with John Pease, they didn't have a
Okay.
firm location.
Did
In
they
mind.
have an opinion on the location, or they were leaving it up to us?
They didn't really say. Yeah.
You want a motion?
I think that's a great option.
Yeah.
I will make a motion to accept the proposal and donation of the flagpole with the option of number one for the location.
And for those that are playing along at home, how do you describe that spot?
That's at the corner of the parking lot.
The back corner?
Oh, the
Yeah,
back
it's-
corner of the
it's
parking
a
lot.
little away from the parking lot, so it's off
Yeah.
that berm there.
Kind of like
Kinda
near the
corner-
soccer goal?
Corner of the soccer
Yeah.
fieldish area.
Show me the picture and I can zoom in.
Oh, I'm going to hold it away from myself.
By me.
Put your pen where it's going to be, or your finger or something.
But,
Somebody want a second?
I second.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. I second.
all right.
Here, here.
Is there any further discussion?
With many thanks to the Legion.
Yes, and for the due
That's right.
diligence, Dr. Driscoll, and
Exactly.
getting out there and checking
Thanks
it
to
out.
all for that. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Excellent. Motion passes. All right, at which time I would like to move that we move into executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body, and the chair so declares, which I declare, and we will not return to open session. We'll take a roll call vote.
Staniszewski, aye.
Bench, aye.
Would you aye?
Engelhardt, aye.
All right, thank you all very much.